I swear to Gwen, if I see another Fortnite ad, I'm gonna fuck. Hey there, my butchers. It's your Great Eagle here, InfernoPlus, back at it again with another Dark Souls remastered. You know, actually, let's talk about something else today. The past few years have been really bad for shooters. Baby royales and loot boxes and all that filth just plague the market, and our only light in the darkness, Unreal Tournament 4 Senpai, was cancelled so that Epic Games could put more people working on Fortnite. Why? It has been at least 5 years since I played a shooter that I really enjoyed, and honestly I'd given up all hope of ever experiencing something that wonderful again. It truly felt like this endless nightmare of tactical modern shooters was just going to go on forever.
Shazbot.
Until today, because it's time to teach all of you dirty sandrakers how to go fast. This is Midair. Though most of you guys have probably never seen a game like this, the ones that have are probably thinking something like,
Woohoo! Awesome!
Midair is more or less a modernized version of the older Tribes games, though it does appear to take some aspects from Tribes Ascend as well. The most important and defining aspect of these games is that they are fast and hard. This isn't the kind of game you can just pick up and know how to play immediately. Midair and Tribes fall into a very unique subgenre of shooters, and it takes time and patience to learn the mechanics of these games. But it is because of these mechanics that the game feels completely boundless in terms of your own progression as a player. You will always be improving, and you will constantly meet players who are better than you. And unlike many other shooters, when someone is good at this game, you can really tell.
Just scared that Bay's gonna come up behind me and kill me while I'm in the middle.
Oh god, no, he's in front of me!
Oh!
I've played with people who absolutely baffle me with their movement and precision. When you see someone nail a mortar shot from halfway across the map, you might call it luck. But when he does it 5 times in a row, there's a very different word you should be using. And it's a word I find rather absent from most other modern shooters.
Great shot.
So for this part of the video, I want to cover the 3 core mechanics of the game. I'm going to explain them in a way that should hopefully be easy to understand for people who are new to this kind of game. And I'm also going to give my thoughts on why these mechanics make the game so wonderful and interesting to play. So without further ado, here is InfernoPlus's guide to moving, shooting, and not being completely useless.
When will you learn? I am the greatest! I have the flag.
Did I body block you?
Shazbot!
The movement in midair comes in 4 flavors. The first is of course walking. It's slow, and you really shouldn't be doing it much, but it does have its uses. The next is skiing. Holding down the spacebar will make you virtually frictionless, so when you are on a slope, you will accelerate down it very quickly, and you will retain that speed so long as you aren't going uphill. Then of course we have the jetpack. At the bottom of the screen here you have 2 meters. One of them is obviously your health, and when it runs out, you die. The second is your jetpack energy, and when it runs out, you die. When you use the jetpack, it will send you straight up, but it can be vectored by holding down the directional keys. Vectoring the jetpack is a very important skill, but a lot of the times you won't need to use it. It's mainly for making minor course adjustments and helping you land more smoothly into a slope. It's also important to keep an eye on your energy. Running dry will usually end in disaster. So learning to manage your energy carefully, both in fight and flight, is a very critical skill. The fourth type of movement is boosting. This is mainly done using the ring launcher. It's essentially rocket jumping, but with a bit more nuance to it. Boosts need to be spaced carefully to try and reduce the damage you do to yourself as much as possible. You also want to be aware of where you're going, as it's very easy to boost yourself too much and end up overshooting your target. Another type of boosting is through the thrust pack. I personally love using this as it gives a lot of cool options for maneuvering, but other packs are generally more useful, and I suggest you stick with the energy regen pack if you're new to the game. So now that you know how each of these works, it's time to put them all together. In order to build up speed, you want to ski down into a valley and then jetpack up the other side. By repeatedly doing this, you will continuously gain speed, and eventually you'll start getting airtime. By carefully adjusting your height and vectoring your jetpack, you can direct each landing into a downward slope and continue to gain more and more speed. In order to get going fast quickly, you can also boost yourself with the ring launcher at the peak of each hill. Or if you are at a standstill, you can use the thrust pack to send yourself down into a slope really quickly. Understanding and utilizing all the different forms of movement can seem really overwhelming at first, and while it will eventually become second nature, it never becomes automatic. The movement in midair isn't free. You will always be reading the terrain around you. It's a constant test of your skills to find the fastest, most efficient, and most creative ways to navigate. And the faster you get going, the more precise your movements and timing has to be. The game doesn't have some arbitrary set speed limit. The speed limit is your skill as a player. You can always get better, and you can always go faster. And that makes every match an exciting opportunity to improve as a player.
Excuse me, I don't remember Caillou going that fast. I'm suing you for false advertisement.
I'm just a kid who's going Mach 4.
Only.
Great shot! Ah, that's too bad.
Our next topic is the shooting mechanics. Unlike most modern shooters, Midair doesn't use any hit-scan weapons, and only 2 of the weapons fire high-velocity bullets. Most of the weapons in the game are medium to slow explosive projectiles, and due to the game's system of movement, shooting is less about aiming at your opponent and more about predicting at your opponent. For close range shots, you'll need to factor in things like your own speed and the speed of your opponent. And for longer range shots, you'll also need to read the terrain and figure out how they're planning to ski over it. It's not easy, and when you factor in the ability for your opponent to juke your shot with a well-timed boost or change of direction, it can lead to some really intense shootouts. Also, there's an important mechanic that the game's name very clearly advertises: midairs. A perfectly executed direct hit with an explosive weapon will deal devastating damage, and it will commonly send your opponent hurtling into the ground. You also get a unique hit marker when you successfully pull one off. Oh, and do you hear that sound? Oh yes, that is the sound of victory right there. Pulling off midairs is insanely difficult, and even with thousands of hours of practice, you'll still have trouble nailing it consistently. And that's exactly what makes the game so great. The feeling of landing a perfectly placed long-range shot or a dead accurate midair disc is really what defines the game. It's hard to put into words just how incredible it feels to nail a massive midair. The speed, the height, the precision. There's a million ways to miss a shot. Misjudging the difference in speed, the relative positions, the arc of your opponent's flight, the distance, the timing, the vectoring, and yet against all odds, you figured it out in a split second and blew your opponent out of the sky. That one shot, that one tiny moment, is infinitely more satisfying than anything you can get out of other modern shooters. Nothing can compare to this. Nothing even really comes close. Games like Tribes and Midair are what I believe shooters are meant to be like. A spectacle, grandiose, over the top, insane speeds and impossible maneuvers. A game that is fun to watch and fun to play. And now for our last section, we are going to be talking about objectives. The main game type played in Midair is CTF. Most people are pretty familiar with this as it's in pretty much every shooter ever made, but Midair CTF is not quite like other games. The first major difference is base assets. In each CTF map, there is a building that houses a generator for each team. This generator powers various turrets, radar sensors, and resupply stations located around the base. If the opposing team destroys this generator, then all those assets shut off, and the respawn times for that team go up drastically. The assets themselves can also be damaged and destroyed as well to take them offline. Having the generator destroyed could be a serious handicap to a team, making it an important target in CTF. So on top of defending your own flag and trying to get the enemy's flag, you also have to focus on the generators at each base. That can be a lot to handle, which is why we have roles. Each person on the team should focus on covering different aspects of the match. One guy can load out in heavy armor and sit on the flag to protect it, while another guy with a stealth pack could slide off to the enemy base, sneak in, and blow up the generator. And while the rest of the team is handling that, 2 more guys could alternate making high-speed runs to the enemy flag in an attempt to bring it back to the base. Roles are very important, and you should always tailor your loadouts for each individual job. If your role is to capture the enemy flag, you're going to want to go fast, and you're going to want to bring light armor for that. If your role is to disrupt the enemy defenses, then you're going to need powerful weapons, and the heavy armor has you covered there. It's also important to be flexible. If the enemy defense is really strong and your flag cappers can't get through, make a distraction for them. Roll up to the enemy base with a mortar launcher and just take pot shots at people. Make them come focus on you since your flag cappers have an easier time getting by. Teamwork is critical to victory, so always be aware of what you're doing and what your team needs you to be doing. Hey, is it okay if I team kill you and take the flag?
Yes.
God damn it.
Okay, I can't be mad about that because you asked me.
All of this role and playstyle variety really makes a well-played match of CTF a wonderful dance of many individual players working separately towards a singular goal. It's quite impressive to watch and a lot of fun to play.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Whoa. What?
Oh, and there are vehicles in CTF, but my history as a pilot is not so good, so you'll have to ask someone else to explain them to you.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And as one last note, there is a more competitive game mode known as LCTF. This mode bans a lot of equipment and only allows light armor. It's directed at veteran tribes players who want a more simplified and balanced rule set. If you ever get the urge to play at a higher level, this is a great option. Now this is a lot to learn right off the bat, but if you are interested in the game, I highly recommend practicing the movement by yourself a bit. Once you feel comfortable with that, try a few games of team deathmatch to get used to moving and shooting at the same time. The high speeds and hectic shifts and objectives of CTF are hard to adjust to at first, so getting a grip on the game in TDM is definitely the way to go. Just remember to have fun and go fast, whether you win or lose. I was originally going to have a section of this video detailing a few of my criticisms about the game, but considering that one of the developers took the time to read and give input on the script for this video, I don't really think it's necessary. I really appreciate that he took the time to look over it, and from what I've heard, they are already aware of most of the issues that I had with the game. Let's just hope that the next patch brings a buff to the thrust pack and a new Shockland style weapon. So in conclusion, go play Midair. You can get it on Steam for free, or you can buy it on Steam to unlock everything instantly. The monetization model here is very fair, and I'm glad they handled it the way they did instead of taking the high-res approach. This game really deserves more support, and I hope this video has gotten some of you guys interested in trying it out. Now get out there and remember to take it easy there, Turbo.
Easy there, Turbo.